hardly want to speak. I want to say good morning also to the people that are watching online. Perhaps Jan from the UK and Reverend Barbara from up north. Many people online, and the announcement to you folks and to everyone is that starting this morning, we are streaming only the talk portion of the morning, and that is because we want to comply with copyright regulations. And so I'm hoping that it will really encourage people to come to service, because the music this morning was amazing. So 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 that means also the CDs that you purchase will have the talk portion on it only. So that's our new, getting in line with the rules here. So good morning for those of you that I have not met, and there are some first-timers here today. I'm Reverend Karyl Huntley, the senior minister here, and we are in the midst, well, coming to the end actually, of the theme for the year, which has been living what we believe, the year of yes. And we've been going through many different quotes by our founder, found in this essay called What We Believe. And this month is about generosity. This is the power of generosity of the infinite to all of creation. And so the quote actually is, "We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all." So this amazing statement is about all that is given to each one of us every minute of every day. That the incredible generosity of our source withholds nothing, that it's all given all the time. And, this is different from some other traditions that you might have come from, where there are two powers and they kind of go at each other, the power for good and the power for evil. There's nothing like that here. What's here is that in this denomination, there is one power, and that power is for good. It's for your support. It's for creativity. It's for accommodating your needs and desires. And it is infinitely, infinitely good. The title of my talk today is, "What is the good that has no opposite?" And the word that we are looking at today, of course, is good. So I want to draw your attention to this really good altar that is an expression of the divine. It's one of Janet's altars, this beautiful sea green material is usually from Janet's bins. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful altar today about the goodness of God. So when we think about goodness, of course, what I think is, we were born into this world of form from the realm of the formless. That, we took a body when we came here, and we already were. We have existed forever, along with the infinite source. And so when we chose to come to earth, we came into a realm of opposites, polarities. We came into a realm of pairs, actually. There's only one thing, that's God, but here, the infinite wisdom decided to make pairs. And so we are in this world of pairs that is the pair of in and out, and me and not me. That's a really big lesson for infants. What is me and what is not me? Up, down, happy, sad, and of course, good and bad. That's what we were born into. And so when we say about God, that God is the good where there is no opposite, it sort of begs the question, well, how can that be? If we got a good, we got to have a bad. And so where is that other power that's bad? Or if God is good, maybe I'm bad. Or what about the circumstances? There are circumstances that are certainly good and circumstances that are certainly bad, right? So our teaching asks us to go beyond conditions and circumstances to the infinite, because God has no opposites. There's one infinite source and many, many, many manifestations, but the essence of God, there is no opposite there. It includes that and that and that and that and more than that and more than that. Within God, there is no possibility to withhold anything. It is all given, and it is against the nature of the givingness of God. I know that's a little jargon word we use, but it's the noun, givingness. God always gives, and it is the nature of the infinite to do that, and it cannot withhold. It's just like the waves that crash on the beach. You can't imagine a way that they would stop, and that motion, that givingness of the waves and the tides would be withheld. It can't be. So when we put these words together, goodness, loving kindness, this is going to stop. It's not going to make you seasick. See, there it is. Goodness, loving kindness, and givingness. When we put these words together, we actually have a picture of the nature of life. And as we look for this, and as we accept that this is the truth, and anything unlike it is appearances, we get to experience that more and more and more and more. And then when we have an experience that jars us, that, oh my God, this could be bad, we immediately, pretty much, get back to this pattern of goodness and loving kindness and givingness. So I've been in this a long, long time, and it's not that I don't experience what I would, not desire to experience, but I had something happen this week that it was so sweet for this particular talk. So I had an early appointment one day this week, so I had to leave home in Santa Rosa pretty early, and I didn't have my usual time to drink coffee and look at my email before I leave home. So I was in this meeting, and my daughter, who is 22 and living in New York City, has a particular ring on my phone. So Melanie's ring came up on my phone, and I go, I can't talk to you right now, I'll call you back, I'm in a meeting. So I call back, and this person who is not Melanie answers the phone. In fact, this is someone whose English is not their first language, has my daughter's telephone. And so I'm thinking immediately, oh my God, where's Melanie? So very soon in this conversation, it appears that this woman has found Melanie's telephone on the subway train, and she looked in her contacts and called Mom. and so we made a plan, and little did I know that Melanie had already sent me an email saying, swear word, swear word, swear word, I lost my phone. And of course, I couldn't get to her by the phone to tell her I know where the phone is, so it took a couple of days to get this all organized. And this woman worked at an Applebee's in Manhattan, and Melanie just had to go to the Applebee's and ask for Cecilia. And so it all happened a couple of days later, and I was just reminded of the goodness of God and the outpicturing of that goodness in people. And it was so sweet because I did go to fear for a minute, and it's still, it was fine. It was all fine. So in my preparation for this talk this week, I thought, well, isn't that nice for God to have given me that one to tell about? Because sometimes, these stories are my learning curves, and I guess this one was, but it was so sweet. So you want to talk about seeing everything as part of the goodness? Yeah, so that we can get through these parts that we don't think we want. So it really is, it's done unto you as you believe. So if you start out believing everything's good, then you kind of look for that in the midst of the distress. So we're going to go through that part of things that distresses us, first of all. So disappointments. Now I know disappointments can be little disappointments, like they ran out of, smoked salmon for your omelet, or, a very, very big disappointment. So it ranges far and wide. But what happens in a disappointment is that life doesn't fit our pictures of what we think we want. And there's this wonderful analogy of appearances, because when we think that we don't want that the picture doesn't fit what we thought we want. There's this analogy of life really being like a tapestry. And sometimes we look at the tapestry from the back, and on the back there's all these knots, and the pattern is, kind of muddy. We go around to the front of the tapestry, and here is this beautiful pattern that is in complete symmetry and beautiful, and there are no frays. So it's just that we can't see everything when we have a disappointment. And a lot of times that puts us on our growing edge to look for the good and praise it. And then there's this question about, when we look at appearances, when do we call something a failure and when do we call something a success? Most of us are kind of familiar with the story of Jesus in the Bible, and would you call Jesus a success when he was baptized? Or would you call it a failure when he was arrested? Would you call it a success or a failure when he was tried? And so the point is, at where in the story do you slip in and judge it? If something happens that you don't like, is that the end? Well, no, it's not the end. The quote is, things will turn out in the end, and if they haven't turned out, it's not the end. Now, that came out of the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, but I've heard it before that, too. I've heard it before that. It's a good thing for you to remember. Things will turn out in the end, and if they have not turned out, it's not the end. And so I know that there are unimaginable tragedies that have happened to people here. I know that there are people here who are in extreme conditions right now that they don't like. And I want you to know that this is not a trivial way of looking at disappointments. And indeed, I know that there have been people in the past or now who have left this philosophy because they think this is just too Pollyanna for me. There's some serious things going on, and they never even acknowledge them. So I want to acknowledge that we have pain. I want to acknowledge that we have extreme disappointment. But the way we get over that disappointment, whether it is that there's no smoked salmon for our omelet or our beloved has passed in a surprise, is the same pattern of healing. What we do is that we put our awareness somewhere else than the pain. We try to imagine the front of the tapestry. We try to imagine the next chapter in the story. And we put our awareness somewhere else. This past week, in this wonderful class that I'm teaching with wonderful students, the Prosperity Plus class, there was an exercise where the students were to get together in small groups and come up with what they believed are high truths of life, so that when they have disappointments, they can look at the high truths. And so we then took the best of the best from all of those small groups, and one of them is happiness is a choice. Now the students came up with that, and there is nothing more true than that. Happiness is a choice. And so we can actually convert pain in our own hearts to love and give it out again. That is the essence of alchemy. Now, a few weeks ago, we had a week on alchemy. I don't think I read this particular quote. I love this. Like recycling literal garbage, alchemical transmutation often involves procedures that don't look especially mysterious. What makes these actions magical is their motive, the state of mind that gives rise to them. You are taking what you instinctively wish to reject as bad, embracing it and working with it until it is transformed into something good. If to transmute rather than to reject has become your first impulse in most negative situations, you might be doing ordinary things, but you are not an ordinary person. And that is what we learn to do. We take in the pain of our own lives, the pain of the world, and give it back as love. And so we couldn't do this if good were not everywhere. We couldn't do it. It would be bad, and that's bad, and there's support for bad, and that's going to stay bad. But rather, we have this opportunity of looking for the good and praising it. That comes so trippingly off the tongue, but that's what we do. We say that happiness is a choice and we choose it. And so when we are able to take disappointments and find God's good in them. And if you are in the middle of a disappointment and that seems to you like so mysterious and so amazing and so like, how in the heck do you do that? Please get a prayer from our practitioners at the end of the service. So, next, our own mistakes. Now, I don't know about you, but boy, when I know that I have screwed up, it is very painful for me. And I think all of us, when we do something foolish or harmful or regrettable, we suffer from the results of that. And it's not because God gives us suffering. God gives us good. We suffer because what we have put out has a natural result and it comes back to us. What we put out, we get back. And the suffering ceases when we instantly forgive ourselves, or instantly whenever we remember to forgive ourselves, and then act from that place of goodness that is within, because that is our nature, because we are made of God, period. We are made of God. There's nothing else to be made of. So the next one is challenging for me, and I work with it, and that is seeing the good in world situations. It's interesting because in this class Prosperity Plus, we were shown covers of Time magazine, and the Time magazine were about economic troubles, war in the Middle East, homelessness, the environment, political shenanigans, and they all were covers from 30 years ago. Because, you know, in the Bible it says the poor will always be with you. These situations, these conditions seem to be with us, and they have been challenging us for generations, and so the learning opportunity is very, very powerful. Now, our founder, Ernest Holmes, had a way of dealing with this, and it is look a fact in the face and deny it. So I'm going to tell you how not to do that first, and then I'm going to tell you how to do it. The way you don't do it is to say, this is not a problem and I have nothing to do with it. The way you do look a fact in the face and deny it is say, there is suffering and pain in conditions, and this condition does not reflect the truth of God, which is infinite goodness. And so I am going to look for goodness in this very situation. Now, there are continual stories in the news about goodness that happens all in the Middle East. Palestinians and Israelis that are in love with each other and raise each other's children. There are people who are doing wonderful things for the environment. And I'm sure that there are absolutely moral politicians. I really do believe that. And I'm looking. So, and we also say, in addition to I look for the good and praise it, is that I do what I can to alleviate suffering. In this great class that I've mentioned twice already, we are reading a book by Genevieve Behrens, and Genevieve Behrens is the only private pupil of Thomas Troward. Those of you in this philosophy know who he is. He's wise, for those of you who are not in this philosophy. So we got a great quote from Genevieve, and if you only take this from this talk, please use it. I have adopted it and am using it all the time in my life. And the quote is, I decline to be discouraged. Yeah. These things are happening in the world, and I decline to be discouraged. I decline to be discouraged because I have a power for good inside of me that can work for good in the world. And I have a power for good inside of me that can look for the good in the world and see it and magnify it. So I decline to be discouraged. And so we keep moving in the direction of our dreams and see in the world what is good. This is one of my favorite quotes from LeVar Burton, the actor and director. I truly believe that our thoughts influence what we experience in life. Do yourself a favor and spend at least one moment today thinking of our world as a safe, healthy, and wonderful place to be. Isn't that great? You know, I went to a Vietnamese restaurant since I've been with you, and the owner of this Vietnamese restaurant in Corte was a boat person, leaving Vietnam in a boat and not knowing where they were going to sail. And she now is the owner of this restaurant, who encouraged us to order more so she could make more money. And then she laughed. And she says, people who have not traveled outside of this country do not know how fabulous this country is. And so looking for the good and praise it is what she has done. So also, we see everything as a part of the goodness in our blessings. Now, this is the easy part. When we can see our blessings, be grateful for our blessings, and also to have these dreams for humanity, that just as I enjoy the love in my life, I know that there is love available for everyone on the planet. And just as I enjoy the level of prosperity that I experience, I want prosperity and thriving for everybody on the planet. And so to extend our blessings by seeing that everyone can have them. And then to see everything as part of the goodness, including the mystery. There is so much that we cannot fathom. And keep that in perspective to include that all that we do not understand about God is necessarily good. Or it all would have just, did your family used to say go to hell in a handbasket? Yeah, everything would have gone to hell in a handbasket if it wasn't essentially good. So if we at this moment can put our toe into the feeling that, well, it might be all good. God might be all good. And all of this that I see and judge, maybe I can look at it in a different way. I want to talk about now, what does this goodness mean to us in our lives, in this life today? When you leave this place and go have lunch somewhere, how can you take this lesson and know that something has shifted in you? What does this goodness really mean? And don't you just love this image? Just love this mandala. It's all vegetables. And the green beans making the lattice. Oh gosh, I just love this. So, here's what the goodness means. Life is safe. Life is safe. You are immortal, and so is everyone else. And so ultimately, you are indestructible and eternal. You're here forever. You're going to leave this body some way. And you're going to be just fine. You're going to go through that doorway, and everybody survives death. Let me just say that. Everybody survives death. Life is safe. Next, you are loved. You are a precious miracle, a unique, precious miracle. The psalmist says that the Lord formed you in the womb of your mother and knew you as he was forming you. It is as if God said, this one's going to be so great. This one is going to be so great. For every single one of you, God said this. And then you are guided and provided. That's the goodness of God. You are guided and provided. And I'm saying to you that you can ask at any time, no matter what kind of alligator pit you are in, you can say, what is one thing I can do to make this better? You just go inside and say, what is one thing I can do to make this better? And you're going to have an idea. You will have an idea because you are guided and provided. When you don't know what to do, you can ask the question, what wants to happen now? That's a very open question, and it concerns more than you. In this pattern that I am in, what wants to happen now? And you will be shown. So as I was going through this talk, I'm now at the conclusion, and I know so many of you said that you loved last week so much with going deep and having the music and having the talking kind of weaving together. And so I thought, the goodness of God, you can't think about it. You really have to feel it. And so the conclusion is a poem that came to me this morning by E.E. Cummings. And it is, I thank you, God, for most this amazing day. Oh. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for leaping greenly spirits and trees and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and love and wings, and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any lifted from the know of all nothing, human merely being, doubt, unimaginable you? Now, the ears of my ears are awake, and the eyes of my eyes are open. Let's say that last line together with our. Now the ears of our ears are awake, and the eyes of our eyes